welcome to Your Choice 2024 primary election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Danisha McDowell. Joining me for this candidate interview is Phil Deschaine, Democratic incumbent candidate for Meridian Township Treasurer. Phil, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Danisha, for having me here for this interview.
Absolutely. Before we get started, please take this time to introduce yourself to the viewing audience.
Great. I am Phil Deschaine. I am the current Meridian Township Treasurer. I've served as Treasurer since 2018 when I was appointed by the board, and I was elected to be the Treasurer in 2020. I lived in Meridian Township for about 32 years now. I raised my family here. My three children, Marianne, Philip, and Elizabeth, all graduated from Hazlitt High School. We've made this community our home, and we love living here in Meridian. I was honored to be asked to be run for the board in 2016. I ran and was elected as trustee, and then the board elevated me to the treasurer position. I very much enjoy my work as treasurer, and I feel like I do the best I can do every day for our residents, and that's why I'm running again for re-election.
Thank you. Each Meridian Township Treasurer candidate will be asked a standard list of 10 questions, and we'll get started with question number 1.
Sure.
Please explain how your education and professional background make you an ideal candidate for Meridian Township Treasurer.
Well, my formal education was from the University of Michigan, where I got my bachelor's degree from the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. It gave me a good basic core liberal arts foundation. Around age 40, I went to MSU and got 24 graduate credits in a degree in counseling. I didn't finish that master's program, but those courses in counseling really helped me to become a more effective board member and treasurer. It's really important as an elected official, you understand how to listen to residents, hear their concerns, validate those, and respond appropriately to what issues they are bringing to you. Prior to joining the board, I worked in the private sector for over 3 decades in information technology. I sold large systems to different organizations like forensic labs and large property management companies. That gave me a great sense of what it's like in the private market and how what a challenge it is for many of our individuals, or many of our residents, to make a day-to-day living. People here in Meridian Township work very hard for the homes and the lifestyle that they have, and I can appreciate that, having been in the private sector. It's people face challenging lives today, and as their public official, I understand that. So when they come to us with an issue, I understand where they're coming from, and do my very best to hear them and make sure that they feel heard by the board.
What are the essential functions of the Treasurer's Office, and specifically the responsibilities of the Township Treasurer?
Great question. There's really 6 main tasks of the Township Treasurer by statute. The first is to collect all real and personal taxes. In Meridian Township, that's a large number. It's around $120 million a year my office collects in property taxes and business taxes, or personal property taxes. Because of the very large amount we're collecting and a relatively small staff, it's me, my deputy Deanne, and bookkeeper Carissa collect. I am there every day. I get here in the morning, stay till 5. I put in a 40-hour work week. It's essential. We're a small team, and we all have to put in the hours to make sure that we are accountable for all the money received. To that end, I balance the cash drawer every night to make sure it balances. I'm a very hands-on treasurer, and I make sure that the reports are correct, and if they're not correct, if there's any kind of imbalance, we find it, we reconcile the books at the end of each day. That $120 million we collect, by the way, we don't keep. 80% of it is dispersed almost immediately to our schools, LCC, Ingham County, mass transit in the form of CATA, our libraries with cattle, even our airport authority. So the money we collect is for the township, but the vast majority of that is for other entities that count on the tax dollars that Meridian Township residents pay. So that's the first task. The second task of the treasurer is to keep tabs of all receipts and expenses of the township. The receipts part Every receipt, every dollar, every credit card or check that comes through my office, we account for those. In terms of the expenses, because we are the 40th largest municipality in the state of Michigan, we need our own finance department. And we have a finance director, accountant, and other finance staff that help with particularly with the payroll and the payables, as well as maintaining the general ledger. All the reports that come from them for payables and expenses and checks come by my desk, I approve them, and I sign every check before it goes out. So I have full responsibility for those. I sign off on those, but my staff doesn't actually do the payables. We need a separate department for that. The third important task that I have is to invest all township funds in appropriate investments. That means any money that we have has to be invested in the safest possible investment instruments. That means U.S. Treasury bills, bank CDs, or money markets. Depending on the time of the year, we have a lot of cash to invest, and we spend that down. Most of our revenue comes at the first 2-3 months of the year, and we spend it down until the next tax season starts. To that end, we have around $67 million in investments, about half of that in short-term instruments, and the other half in long-term instruments. Currently, we are experiencing a rather high interest rate environment due to the Fed. The Fed has increased rates to try and stomp down inflation. So in that high interest rate environment, I've made maximum use of our investment dollars to invest in safe opportunities, but ones that provided significant income for the township. We earned about $2.4 million last year in investment income. That's about 3 times what it was in 2021. I'm proud of that return. All those dollars are put into the general fund, and they're used to provide the essential services that we provide as the township, in particular our police and fire services. The fourth important task of the treasurer is to collect delinquent personal property taxes. Personal property taxes are essentially taxes on businesses. They're business assets. The state does allow those small businesses to get an exemption if they have less than $180,000 in assets. They can get a waiver, and they don't pay the taxes on that. But if they don't put the waiver in, I still have to collect it. So I encourage all small businesses to file that waiver with our assessing office. Business personal property taxes are relatively small, but they're important. And unlike real estate taxes, these taxes don't get turned over to the county treasurer. So they get unpaid. I have to actively pursue those and essentially act like a collection agency to make sure every dollar is paid. No one gets off the hook. If you owe the taxes, you're going to pay those taxes to the township. It's only fair to our schools and other stakeholders. To that end, I end up taking a dozen or so a year to small claims court to collect those taxes. I'll use whatever tool I can to make sure that businesses that owe taxes will pay those taxes. It's only fair. The fifth task of the treasurer is to assess what are called jeopardy assessments. These are for businesses that don't pay those taxes, and even small claims court doesn't work to collect those taxes. State law gives me the ability to go to that business, put a padlock on their door, and close the business down and auction off their assets for those back taxes. That's a really drastic measure, and unfortunately, I've not had to do that. I've had to threaten it a few times, but I've never had to do it. Instead, I've been able to reach out to the business owner, tell them what's going to happen if they don't pay these taxes, and work out a payment plan, either immediate payment or a very short-term payoff of those personal property taxes. We don't want to be shutting down businesses. At the same time, we have to collect those taxes, and we will. And the last task is to collect a mobile home tax, which gets then paid to the county. We only have the one mobile home park here in Meridian Township, and we collect those taxes and report those, pay those to the county. Those are the 6 main tasks of the township treasurer.
The treasurer's office often deals with the public coming in to pay bills and to make other payments. This is especially true during tax collection season. How do you deal with residents or business owners who may be upset over an increased tax bill?
That's a very good question, and we do encounter residents who are upset about their tax bills. I deal with them primarily by being here, and I'll take their calls on the phone, or if they're at the counter, I will go up and talk to them. And oftentimes we'll invite them back into my office so we can discuss what they're upset about. Sometimes it's one thing, maybe one item on their tax bill they don't understand or they're mad about, or it's a whole series of things. It doesn't matter. sit down with them and have a conversation with them. The first thing I do to try and help them with their being upset is to listen to what their concerns are. What is it that really has gotten them upset today? What has made this such an unpleasant experience? Quite frankly, paying taxes is not a pleasant experience for anyone, but for some people it's really difficult. In some cases, those residents are actually having a difficult time paying those taxes. In those cases, we're fortunate to have our Meridian Cares office here, and sometimes I can refer them to Meridian Cares where they can get some additional financial assistance if they're eligible for that. But for the most part, what people need isn't so much financial assistance as they just need to be heard. So I preserve their thoughts. I listen to them. I give them some feedback on what they're saying. For example, I don't argue with them. If they say our taxes are too high, I will validate that. We are in a high tax county. Our Ingham County taxes, for example, are twice what they are in Oakland County. So we have a higher tax rate here, and people notice that, and people are sometimes really upset about that. So I in some ways empathize with them. I understand. I've been paying taxes in Meridian Township for 31 years myself. So taxes are a huge financial obligation for our residents. And so if someone being upset about that, I'll hear them about that. So I validate what they're saying and listen to them. I'll also take it one step further, and I'll point out to them that these taxes that they are paying are on their tax bill because the voters at some point in the past have approved them for payment. Example of that would be the CATA millage for our mass transit system. People think we're paying too much to CATA for the amount of bus services we get back. We actually are getting quite a bit more in bus services lately, and we're proud of that fact. But that's an example of someone being upset. I'll explain to them that is required by law that we assess that millage because the voters voted to put that on the tax bill. So they not want to understand how it got there. It wasn't a group of politicians sitting around assessing taxes. It was really a voter mandated requirement to collect the taxes for that school district or for that public service. They understand a little better where those taxes are coming from. Primarily, though, the way that I found to really help people to calm down and to feel like themselves again is just to listen to them. Let them know that I understand. Let them know that I empathize with them, and let them know of alternatives that might be out there to help them with their taxes. But if someone is upset, I don't turn away from that. I'll talk to them. That's my job, to be here, to listen to them. And it goes back to my education. This is where the counseling came in very much. That counseling training came in to help me from my past.
Can you share a personal story or experience that highlights your commitment to public service?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Well before joining the board or becoming treasurer, I was a real active member of the Kiwanis Club of Hazlitt and Okemos. And one of our annual projects was to go to Orlando Park on Orlando Drive in Hazlitt, and we would just do a spring cleanup. We would scrub the play equipment, we would put down mulch, we'd pull weeds, we'd trim trees, we'd edge of the grass, whatever we needed to do to really bring that park back to life after the long winter. We did that every May for 6 or 7 years before I was appointed to the Park Commission. And as in 2015 as Park Commissioner, I explained to the Commission what I had done, and I suggested the idea of doing a Love a Park Day, where we invited other community groups, school groups, neighborhood associations to adopt a park and go out to that park for a day in May and do their own Love a Park, as the Kiwanis had done. And that idea has caught on. We've offered it in some variation for the past 10 years, and many of our parks get a really fresh renewal in the spring based on volunteers who come out and contribute. In Meridian Township, we have very generous people that give a lot of their time and their talent to make this community better. Cleaning up parks is just one example of that. They do so many other things that make our township really exceptional. Our garden clubs, our Hazlitt Beautification Association. If you see flower beds at parks, at Township Hall, at our police department, fire department, that's all the work of our dedicated volunteers. They put in countless hundreds and thousands of hours towards the betterment of the community. We're very fortunate to have that. Love a Park Day was just one more way to tap into that generosity that we have all around us here. We're very fortunate to live in this community because it's a very community-minded township. People really look after each other and they care for the common good. And I'm proud to be a resident of this township.
How would you prioritize the use of the Township General Fund? When thinking about adopting future budgets, what do you hope to see incorporated?
That's another very good question. The board looks at the budget every year, and we're about to go into budget negotiations later this summer. There's lots of demands, lots of people asking for funding for this project or that project. The one that really sticks out for me is based on the fact that we get really good feedback from our residents. We do a survey of all of our residents, a scientific survey every 3 years. And as far back as I've looked, the number one priority of our residents, that's 50 points higher than all the other ones, is support for excellent police, fire, and EMS. And so our top budget priority always has to be making sure we're providing adequate funding to maintain the excellent police services, the excellent fire, and our superbly trained EMS technicians who are out there in the field every day saving lives. We worked hard to restore funding to the 2010 levels. Back in 2010, we were coming to the Great Recession, and there were layoffs of police, fire, and other township employees. Simply, property tax values took a steep dive, and there was less revenue to fund those things. So cuts were made. Over the past dozen years, the board has worked to restore that funding. And this year, finally, we'll be at 42 sworn police officers. We're at 39 now. We were as low as 30 just a few months ago, but the board offered a incentive program to attract new police officers and retain our existing police officers. It worked. We've been able to add 9 police officers over the past 6 months. We've been very fortunate. And we've got 3 more coming out of the academy that will be in place by the end of the year. Fire, we've been able to add 6 fire EMS over the past 8 years. We're real proud of that. Those frontline first responders, we finally have them at a stable 2010 level of staffing. The problem with that 2010 level is that since 2010, our population has grown 15%. Calls are up 25% for fire and EMS. So getting to 2010 levels is a good first step. But our general fund priorities have to be to take that 2010 level and adjust it so it meets the current demands of our population, which has grown. We're over 45,000 residents here in Meridian Township. Beyond that goal of making sure we maintain our excellent, fully staffed police and fire, I support working further to pay off our MERS employee pension debt. 10 years ago, we were at around 48% funding, too little funding. We needed to do more. Right now, we're at 73% funding, and that's due to the fact that the board has been putting in millions of dollars every year extra beyond our basic minimum to get that number up to 73%, which is a much better number than we were at before. But we're not done, and we've got another 27% to get fully funded there. And so I want to see us continue to be aggressive in paying that down so it's not a burden to future generations the way it is for the current generation to pay, in essence, debts from the past. Let's get that paid off so moving forward, future boards will have the ability to operate without a huge pension debt liability to pay off. We've already done that with our township pension, which is one we maintained for many years. It's closed now, but we are now at 100% funding for that. And likewise, we have fully funded our employee healthcare benefits pool so that also is paid off. So 2 of the 3 major liabilities, the Meridian pension and the OPEB employee healthcare, have been paid off. Now we just got to focus on the third, the biggest one, which is the MERS pension. So that too should be a general fund liability. It's really important to pay off your old debts before you take on new expenditures. And so we've worked towards that in the 8 years I've been on the board, and I hope the next board will continue to work on paying off these debts so we can move forward without the heavy weight of carrying past debts into the future.
What steps do you think the township should take to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion within the workforce to effectively represent the diverse makeup of the community?
Thank you for that question. Diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, is an important goal of this board, and we made it clear to the manager that we want to see effective DEI steps taken. To that end, we've instructed him to provide training for all management, board level, and employee level members of the Meridian Township team. So we're hoping to see that training later this year. And it's not just one, but it's an ongoing amount of training we need to provide our employees so they understand what DEI is and how we're working toward that goal. To that end, with our efforts with DEI, we've had some success, particularly with gender equity. Currently, our police department has 30% sworn female officers, which is a remarkable number. Many other departments have tried for that goal. We are very close to that goal right now. So we're proud of that number. Likewise, our management team of 11 managers in the township, 5 departments are female-led. So we are making significant strides in gender equity and diversity in the township. Nonetheless, we have not succeeded in providing more job opportunities, particularly at the management level, for persons of color. And that needs to be a goal of the township. We can't forget that. We need to continue to recruit and retain a wide swath of individuals that represent the diversity of our township in all of our new hires. And those and to retain those employees as well, so that they don't get hired at Meridian Township and find it not to be a welcoming environment and leave. Our employee turnover right now is very, very low, and we need to maintain that. People that come here to work need to feel like they're welcome, they're part of the team, and we know that their work is validated, and we appreciate the contribution they're doing and the diverse perspective they bring to employment here at Meridian Township.
How do you plan to foster positive employee relations? Can you please provide a specific example?
Sure. The first way you create a positive work environment is you validate people's work and you show that by providing them with a fair wage. You don't try and expect 110% for them, but then pay them 80% of what they're worth. Pay them the fair wage. The second is listen to them. Have ongoing listening sessions with departments, with the entire staff, to make sure their concerns are being heard and that those concerns are being acted upon, and we're creating a positive work environment for our employees. It's really essential that employees feel like they can bring issues to management and those issues will be addressed in a satisfactory way. The third is to provide really an optimal work environment. And to that end, we did a complete remodel of our municipal building here last year. New paint, new carpet, new flooring, countertops, even break rooms were redone. It's been 30 years since anything like that had been attempted here in the township. And so we really have a fresh, bright, new place to work for our employees. We're proud of that. And where you come to work and where you spend 8 hours plus a day is very important. And we've done our best to make sure that we have a really positive environment with employees, and it's a very positive place to work. We've also provided every employee with a new workspace and cubicle and all the equipment they need to do their job successfully. And probably the last and most important way is to give them credit. You know, my office is a small office of 3 of us, and both me and the clerk would be highly unsuccessful as clerk and treasurer if we didn't have outstanding staff working for us. Both of us have those staff working for us. It's really important to give them credit and not to say, oh, I did this and I did this. No, we did this together. I am essentially very dependent on my team. If we aren't all successful as a team, the department won't be successful. So it's really important to let employees know that you value their work and you give them credit for it and acknowledge the significant contribution that they make. One example of that would be that every week every Monday morning, we do a team huddle. And we often will bring in the utility building staff who work right next to us and the finance director in that meeting as well. We talk about what our objectives are for the week, if this is going to be a big tax collection week or a big utility bill collection week, and make sure we're prepared for the counter to have that fully staffed. If someone's going to be out on vacation, we make sure someone else is going to cover for them. If someone has a vacation planned or personal leave time, we're making sure that that all that work that they would be doing is covered by another employee. We work for each other. We make sure we back up each other so that people feel like that their work will not be languish if they aren't here. So as a team, we cover for each other in our absence. But mainly we talk about what do we need to do to be successful. I ask each of my employees, what do you need from me this week? I've given you some objectives, some goals. Can you meet those? If not, give me some feedback on what you're going to need to be successful. So I make sure that at these huddles that my employees feel like what they need has been provided to them, and if they have any concerns, they can bring them to me, and they know what's expected of them. Those three things, I think, go a long ways towards employees feeling they're in a satisfying and engaging work environment.
How will you utilize transparency to create an effective and trusting community for Meridian Township employees and the residents of the township?
That's a very good question. We do that. Transparency is built into the treasurer's office. All of the money, all the tax bills that are sent out, the tax assessments, the bills, the payments, receipts of any kind are all part of the public record. Anyone can come in and look at what I was paid, what I was billed and paid, what my neighbors were paid, billed and paid. All that information, all those transactions are part of the public record and available on our website. So the transparency is actually not optional. It's required by the state of Michigan. We fulfill that and go a little further. Some townships charge to view those pages. We do not charge. It's free access to anyone to come in and look at all those records as long as they want to. Transparency is important. In terms of my individual office activities of my office, I provide a quarterly board report to the board based on all of our investments, where we've invested money, what our return was, any transactions that were made, any sales or repurchases that were made. It's all a quarterly board report available to everyone in our community. I also do an annual report of all the activities of the treasurer's office as well. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of helping people who have issues or are upset, the same is true if people just have questions. If someone comes and wants to ask a question about township revenues or expenditures, I will meet with them. I'll take as much time as they need to discuss it. In fact, at 2:30 today, I have an appointment with a small business owner who wanted to have some questions about our budget process, and so I invited him in to come and talk. So any questions residents have about township expenditures or revenues, they can call me, 853-4144, or they can come into the counter and I'll talk to them. We can meet in my office so that they get their questions answered and they feel like there's full transparency of all of our operation. At the board level, we have extremely high level of transparency. All of our meetings and deliberations are on live TV, on HOMTV, which you are part of, and you do so well for the township. Many of our boards and commissions, like the Planning Commission, also have full recordings of their meetings as well. Other groups that aren't recorded, like the ZBA, those meeting minutes are all available. Our clerk does a very good job of getting those minutes and publishing them on our website as soon as they're made available by the staff or by the chair of that. So everything we do in township government those activities are fully transparent for the public. This is their money that we're spending on township government. It's really essential that we provide a full accounting for those expenditures with everything we do here in Meridian Township. One exception to this transparency recently was with the resignation of our township manager. That was not a transparent process. That was held in closed session, and that is the right of any employee of the township to have personnel matters discussed in closed session. He had opted for that closed session, so we were unable to. We had to meet. We were required to meet his requirements, so those deliberations were done in closed session per state law. But transparency is not optional. It's not a goal. It is essential to all we do here in Meridian Township, particularly when it involves finances with the treasurer's office. And I'm fully committed to even continuing the transparency I've shown the past 6 years as your treasurer.
What goals would you like to see the township accomplish in the next 5 years?
There are two really big goals that stand out for me. One is the redevelopment of our commercial core. The Grand River Corridor, the mall, the Village of Okemos, and the Four Corners and Hazlet have all experienced some level, small or large amount of blight over the past 20 years. Quite frankly, commercial is changing significantly. The old retail operations that we relied on for so long to keep our business areas vibrant have slipped away. Amazon has come in, other online retailers have come on. It's been a real challenge for our retail operations. We need to help them to redevelop. The second area we really need to work on is housing affordability. We need to encourage development of moderate, middle-income housing here in the Meridian Township. We need more homes for young families and young singles. One of our greatest assets here, without a doubt, are our 4 school districts: Okemos, Hazlet, East Lansing, and Williamston. They are 4 of the best school districts in the state. Yet for them to stay vibrant and healthy, they need young families to be able to move into the township and to fill up their classrooms. And like any school district, with birth rates having gone down the past few decades, they're all struggling to keep their enrollment levels high. By encouraging affordable middle-income housing, we are helping the school district as well, and we want those schools to thrive because they are an essential part of this community.
With the few minutes remaining, we would like you to provide a closing statement for the viewing audience.
Thank you. I've been honored to be your treasurer in Meridian Township the past 6 years, and I am running for re-election because I believe I can be the best treasurer for this township for the next 4 years. I will continue to provide the high level of customer service that I have provided to our residents for the past 6 years, and I will continue to be an effective board member representing the concerns of our residents, all 45,000 of those residents. My top goals for the next 4 years will be to, as I said a minute ago, work towards development of more middle income and affordable housing. Secondly, to make sure we continue to provide the best police and fire services that our residents have come to count on and expect from Meridian Township. Third is really to work hard to redevelop our commercial core. We don't want to see the mall fail. We want the mall to reinvent itself as a destination, and we are well along that path already with the mall, and we continue to do so. And the notion that we might put a new community center, senior center there in the old Yonkers store is a good step in that direction. Fourth, we need to expand, if possible, and maintain our 19 excellent parks and our miles and miles of pathways and trails. It's a great recreational opportunity for our residents. They take advantage of by the thousands every week. Our residents love our parks and trails. We need to make sure they're maintained and safe for all of our residents. And lastly, we need to continue to pay off our legacy debt, pay off the MERS debt so that future generations are not burdened by past obligations. We can do all this. We've had a very successful past 8 years with the board. I'm very confident the next 4 years will be just successful for the upcoming board of Meridian Township.
Thank you for watching this candidate interview with Phil Deschaine, Democratic incumbent candidate for Meridian Township Treasurer. I'm Danisha McDowell. Thank you for watching.